Mr. Jason Duff.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for having me in Lima today.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming here.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
I've got to go experience your guys' facilities and stuff a few times, and it's really cool.
Hung out in downtown Bell Fountain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Going to be a part of the community now.
We couldn't be more excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't be more excited about that. I mean, just seeing the building at 133 West Columbus, it looked a little rough starting out. Yeah. And I think some of the plans that you have to bring a new business, that life, that energy, especially what I'm excited about is you're solving a problem that I hear so much in our community.
And it sounds like it was filled by somebody for a while, and the community probably got used to having that around.
Well, this happens in business. People retire, they have other lives. And I also think that, computer repair and electronics repair is one piece of that. But now that we live in a device, everything is focused on devices in our life, right? From iPads to kids to family to, everything we do in our businesses. And when your screen breaks,
it's immediate.
No, your life stops. That's what happens. And I oftentimes would hear, I have to drive more than 60 miles away to go get this fixed.
Right.
So thanks for solving a problem. And
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see your business grow too.
Yeah, we're super, honestly, just the fact of being able to be around all the stuff you guys have happening is such a blessing. And then the fact that we're filling a space that's needed is like cherry on top for sure. But so for the people that don't know you, or, maybe haven't heard your name or have heard your name but don't really know kind of what all you got going on. So from everything that I know, essentially, to keep it short, because I know you have 100 different things going on, Small Nation is the bread and butter right now, right? And that is encapsulating everything that you guys have going on in Bell Fountain, and it's just basically entrepreneurship on steroids is what it seems like to me, because it kind of encompasses all the other businesses, right? And it's the umbrella of the massive team that oversees everything and makes everything move.
Well, I appreciate you from the outside seeing it that way. The DNA of how we got there, I'll be honest with you, is pretty messy.
Okay.
I am an entrepreneur.
It seems very put together now.
Thank you. That makes me feel pretty good. No, I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
I grew up in family that also had small businesses. And so at a very young age, my parents and grandparents, we spent time working together. My dad had businesses in construction materials, so we sold lumber, concrete, and stone, and my mom had a Hallmark shop. So I can wrap a gift in 2 minutes or less, and my mom paid me in Beanie Babies, so obviously that's why I'm successful.
I mean, if you kept those Beanie Babies...
I'm just telling you, I'm still waiting for that to, cash that in, but
I was going to say, you might be sitting on a serious gold mine.
Yeah, no, I mean... depending on when you have met me in my entrepreneurial journey, I might have fit you with orthopedic shoes, sold you a concrete driveway, helped you with custom greeting cards, filled up your vending machines. I've just always had that hustle and drive to want to solve people's problems. And I enjoy the reward that comes from that. Not only the independence, but also the financial benefits that come with that. And I just like that hustle and that drive. And so I needed a way to communicate what I do and the way I help people to others. And I got around some folks that focus on branding and marketing, and they started just listening to me because I felt really confident helping people with their marketing problems for their businesses. But I had this blind spot of my own. So there were two things that popped up. I resonate with helping small businesses, and I love small towns and rural communities. I grew up in Huntsville, Ohio, in Logan County, town of 500 people, graduated Indian Lake High School, ended up first-generation college student, went to Ohio Northern University in Ada.
You were a first-generation college student?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was kind of expected that the minute you came out of the womb in my family, you got a job.
Get to work.
I mean, again, I don't regret that. Those are things that I'm thankful for. But I will tell you, if you want to flip out your very traditional conservative small business parents, you do two things. You tell them you're going to go to a liberal arts college and you're going to be a music major.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm sure that went over great.
They didn't kind of expect that. But here's the thing. The time I went off to college, I met mentors. I kind of learned about who I was as a human being, and I met and made meaningful, deep friendships and connections.
Right.
But the time that I was gone, where I grew up, my home county of Logan County, a lot of things changed. The big box pharmacies came into our community and bought all the independents. My mom ended up closing her Hallmark shop. The men's clothing store that when I was 13 years old, the owner, Jim Buckenroth, taught me how to tie a tie. Like all those kinds of things like were
Those
very
deep roots, yeah.
They were important to me.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really realize at the time all the various business activities I was doing resonated around small businesses, small towns, and that's where this idea of Small Nation came about, is how can we build a company that invests in places, spaces, and dreams for small towns and entrepreneurs. And you have to understand, my DNA, like growing up, Lima was the big city.
Right.
You know, when you live at Indian Lake, if you wanted to go and celebrate something, you were going to Lima Mall.
Yep.
You would also, if you're going out to dinner, like we were going to Red Lobster or to Texas Roadhouse. And so Lima was a big part of like my experience of going to the big city. And like, you know, of course, Columbus and Cleveland, Cincinnati was there too.
It was the exact same for me growing up in Walpock.
So you see there's that kind of that shared experience. But what I desired is I wanted to create those big city experiences in smaller towns. And so that's, you know, we started and built Small Nation.
So where were you at when, because that's like exactly, I mean, what anybody would hope to do is like go back to your hometown, you know, be like, I can be the person to create that change where I want it to happen, which is where I'm from. What were you doing at the time before Small Nation actually like launched? Where, because I'm guessing, you know, like you said, you had a whole bunch of different jobs.
Yeah, I was saving money that, you know, as I was getting different business ideas and interests, like some of them were successful, many of them were not. The ones that were not, I would equate that like that was education. That was like learning right there on the job. It's like there's no better way to learn than make a mistake with your own pocketbook.
We have a new saying around here that we're loving is the whole, it's either win or learn, no win or lose.
Hey,
and
it is about learning if you can incorporate the lessons. Some folks struggle with that, but I think the pain of like taking your hard-earned money and making a mistake, you probably won't do it again. Now, if it's someone else's,
easy to do it again.
Easy to do it again. So I think that's a great like principle to teach.
Right.
But no, I was always fascinated, like working in various jobs that I'd had about real estate. And real estate for me was, I saw the brokerage side of things. So realtors and real estate professionals that were in our area would list properties. They would market those properties either for sale or for rent. And coming around out of college, I decided one of my mentors was a real estate broker. And at the time, I was trying to figure out my entrepreneurial gigs, but I wasn't really bringing any income in that was sustainable.
Gotcha.
So they're like, why don't you go get your real estate license? So
more like some side hustles? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, any side hustle that I could do, I would do.
Yeah.
Now, the ones that were getting traction were things that were kind of associated around real estate activities. So it could be construction activities, could be helping people build a website, like for
So you're just
marketing.
putting tools in the tool belt for yourself, essentially.
At the time,
like
I didn't know that,
yeah,
but I was like, I just doing
right.
gig things that I would get paid. And then my mentor said, have you ever thought about going to real estate school? So I'm like, well, no, but that sounds expensive. And he's like, well, I'll sponsor you. So a real estate broker sponsored me, went to real estate school, came back licensed. And like, man, you feel so empowered when you get your real estate license because you go through and you learn about real estate appraisal.
Right.
You learn about real estate marketing, licensing law. And I kind of came out like ready to list my first properties. The economic crisis hit 2006, 2007. That was the worst possible time to be a realtor. Like I was trying to list mobile homes at Indian Lake and they weren't even selling. So it tells you like things are pretty
They're
rough.
not moving, nothing is.
But I fell in love with these old historic buildings that lined many streets in small towns here in Ohio, and particularly, what I knew in Bellefontaine. And the prices of the buildings were relatively cheap because they were not in great shape. 80% of the downtown in Bellefontaine was vacant and empty. And there weren't a lot of people standing in line to buy buildings. Even you could buy many of them for under $10,000 or less, some of them as cheap as $1, but they required massive amounts of renovation and creativity to solve that. So I think part of everything in life is being in the right situation, the right market, the right timing of everything. But I just fell in love with the character, the stories, the histories of these buildings and started acquiring them. Either very naive or brilliant, whatever you want to, put your judgment to. I amassed quite a few of these, and then started.
And you still have to, not to cut you off, but you still have to, like, even when those opportunities present themselves, like, you had situated yourself in a position to be able to capitalize on the opportunity too, which is huge. So many people don't do the preparation. So when the opportunity hits, it's like then you're stuck scrambling trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do, and you should already have that set up so you can jump on those
I know that today, being young and naive, I didn't know that.
Right.
But I would say it's part of just having the courage to do something.
Yeah.
And so
Take that first step.
I started acquiring these buildings. And then that's the other thing. I think I encourage younger people, or really anyone that is looking to make that change, is to really assess your comfort level with risk.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you do in life, there are risks that are associated with it. People that have spent time with me have just shared that my risk profile is typically higher.
Right.
Now, I think I've gotten more calculated, like you said, of doing my due diligence, studying other successful business owners and business models, and just like getting a good pulse on what works and what doesn't work. That comes with experience.
Right.
But our story is that we really started in downtown Bellefontaine. We recruited a tenant that opened up a restaurant. And that entrepreneur, her name is Michael Shepard and Brittany Saxon. So two folks, mentor and mentee, that were really making some of the best pizzas, if not in the state, definitely in this part of the country. And they opened up a pizzeria called 600 Downtown. There were already 13 other pizza places in our town. And of course, when we first did this, you can imagine what a lot of people said. Restaurants downtown will not work. First off, a lot of people believe that nothing in downtown would work. There's all the things like parking. The buildings were dilapidated. There were safety issues.
We hear it here all the time.
And it's kind of that message that you start to believe it. If you hear it enough, you start to believe it. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a little bit of a contrarian. When everyone says something, I like to question it. And I say, I actually believe this downtown can be something else. But it was that restaurant that became the catalyst as people would experience brick oven pizza that started baking at 600 degrees and some of the most unique ingredients paired with really great service and the kind of offerings that our small town has never had. That's when people said, I think this place could be different.
So that was the first building block, huh?
That was the first project. That was the first business.
That's crazy because I feel like it is still like a main driver of new people coming and checking out Bellefontaine. I might be wrong. I don't know.
No, it absolutely is.
Because I know it was one of the first things that brought me to Bellefontaine to try.
It absolutely is. And I think for any town or neighborhood or community, it's identifying what you want to be known for. And food and beverage, like when I travel to other towns, one of the first things I ask someone is like, where's the great place to get a drink or eat, or what's unique about your town? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the work that we're doing a lot of time now is you have to be able to storytell what makes your town distinctive, unique, and special. Food is a really big part of it because when you eat great food, then you might want to stay there for shopping. You might want to stay there for entertainment. And you might even want to stay overnight or for the weekend to experience all that the community has to offer.
Right. And food can take you to like a place or time or, like jog memories and all that stuff. So then when people think about Fountain, they have something to really tie it into to like, oh, that's where I had that amazing pizza.
We have a story, and I love stories, but like a couple, Chelsea was from the Lima area. Her, fiance, now husband today, was from the Columbus area. They met and had a cup of coffee in our local coffee shop at Native Coffee. And that place was kind of so special to them that they also got engaged in that coffee shop.
Oh, nice.
And then today, as they were building and growing their business empire, they actually created an Airbnb directly above the coffee shop called the Loft Above that they operate, and they curate those kinds of experiences for other guests and people that visit our town.
That's so cool. That's awesome. Well, I think that gives us like a great, feel for Small Nation and what you guys do and kind of the backstory, because those are definitely some of the things that I didn't know. And just like you getting your real estate license and kind of how you got started. So jumping then from that point to where you guys are at now, when you started Small Nation then, was that like the brainchild of yourself and another person? Was it an outside group that was like, hey, you should do this thing called Small Nation and really brand this? Because I want to really get into the team that you guys have now and how you went, because I know that there was obviously a ton of buildings that you guys have done in the meantime, lots of work and money that's happened in between. But right now, I'd shared before we jumped on here, like one of our things is building this higher, kind of more of an not executive team, but like high performing team, because we have so much stuff going on that we're at the point that it's like you can only handle so much yourself. You got to start really pulling in, and not just like, a punch the clock person. You got to start bringing in some higher level players. And the experience that we've had, like working with you guys, has been phenomenal. Like Kane, your guys' leasing agent, awesome. And
Appreciate
like
them.
even talking to him, he's somebody that, just me owning businesses, I know that guy has choices. So like to be able to bring in somebody like him and keep him on a team is something that's very interesting to me. And I think that a lot of people get to that point of like, how do I bring on those star players? How do I get them to choose Small Nation over the next guy? So I'm curious how you went about building that team.
Yeah, sure. In the beginning, you kind of start as you, and then I then brought in friends and family to work, people that I know and that I trusted, and really couldn't afford at the time, early in the business and building the business, to hire employees. So I started out by getting independent contractors. Okay. So there were people that I were paying on 1099 to do certain roles or functions within the company, and that could be I needed a really good graphic designer, or I needed someone that would be paid on commission to help with leasing. And then doing the property management, doing the accounting, doing all this stuff was kind of overwhelming for just me to do on my own. And so I took the courage to set up legal entities and structures to pay W-2 and to start to have employees. And some of my first employees are actually now business partners today.
Really?
Yeah. So one of the other businesses that I started doing early was, as I was working with small business owners, they would share with me, where do I advertise and market my business? Mm-hmm. And so when I grew up, it was Yellow Pages, it was newspaper, it was radio. And unfortunately, a lot of those things don't have the impact and exposure that the small business owner needs to get their message out.
That digital does now, yeah.
It does, but there's even a lot of data that's showing today, what Facebook was 10 years ago, or Instagram, or any of the digital tools. The reach you used to get free is really ratcheted down today. Oh, yeah. And so one of the oldest and most traditional ways to advertise that has worked in the businesses that I've been in have been signs. Signs that we put in the windows of our storefront, signs on the sidewalks. And I was always fascinated with the signs that I would see on the highways, so the billboard signs. Uh-huh. And when I would try to call a lot of the companies that were representing these signs, they were often not very good at calling me back. And that little light bulb went off and said, well, what does it take to start a billboard company? And so about 15 years ago, we started, when I say we, a friend and I, Adam Rammel, he grew up in Coldwater, Ohio, really one of my first employees. He was my sales guy. We met at a Lima Young Professionals event 15 years ago. Really? And I was sitting there, and he was working for a marketing company here locally, and he said, I just kind of feel unappreciated and underappreciated. And I said, well, I just started building this billboard company where we will design high quality advertisements. We'll install them on the signs, and they're month-to-month agreements for our mostly small business clients. He's like, that sounds kind of cool. So I drove him out to the sign. I said, I need help selling this. And he took a big risk on me, and he accepted and became my first employee. He moved his girlfriend and fiance to Bellefontaine more than 10 years ago. And as they were driving into town, his fiance said, what the beep are we doing moving to this town? Because at the time, I'll just be honest with you, there was not a reason, we did not have any really great restaurants. There was not really a place to get, a great show or live music. And
that speaks a lot to his trust in your vision, and like you being able to pitch that.
Well,
vision
we worked side by side. I appreciated he had a lot of drive and hustle, and I'd also say he was a mentee of mine, and I had a lot of mentors like going throughout life, but it was a point where I invested in him everything that I knew and the skills that I had, and after about 3 to 4 years, I'll be honest, he surpassed me in a lot of those skills. And that's a really great testament of a team member or an employee, is when they can do that. Mm-hmm. My fear is what do I need to do to motivate him to keep him working with me? Because I like him as a person. I want to provide that upward mobility for him to achieve success and build his empire too. And when I kind of opened that door to have that conversation with him, and I said, I know you could make more money working for someone else, but I really like working with you, and I want to work with you for a really long time. And he said, I asked him one question. I said, what do you dream about at night? And he thought about it for a moment.
I just asked Cam that question.
Well, it's a good question to ask. What do you dream about at night? And he thought about it for a second, and he looked back at me and he said, I want to own a bar. I tried not to have an immediate reaction, but like his fiance was just getting ready to get married. And then I think at the time they're getting ready to have, they want to have their first child. And I'm like, dude, this is a divorce. Like, I know, I remember my grandfather in my ear saying two things. Number one, never own a bar or restaurant. And number two, never go in and have business partners. So that kind of head junk, you could say it is good advice, or you can say it's head trash, whatever it is. Now today, I'm owners in multiple restaurants and I've started multiple bars. But I think the thing that I've learned is when Adam articulated his dream is he said, there is not a good place within 60 miles of Bell Fountain to get a good craft beer. At the time, the craft beer industry was really growing and expanding. Yeah. We just had one new pizzeria that opened up that was getting some traction and attention. And he had this vision with, it was kind of neat idea of this group of guys in our town called the Bell Fountain Body Bearding Club. 28 guys that would compete in bearding competitions around the country. They were doing amazing things in giving back and saving our historic theater in our town, hosting events. And this group partnered with him, visioned up the idea to create the Brew Fountain and Bell Fountain.
Which is like the most amazing name.
It's been the #1 craft beer bar in Ohio for the last 5 years running. We didn't know that at the time because the building did not have a floor, did not have a roof, but it took a lot of hustle, hard work, capital to vision up opening up that. So like, you're asking how we got to today. It's been betting on people that have good, sometimes weird ideas, and getting them connected to real estate, and then finding capital that can activate those good ideas in the real estate.
And are all those people still, in one form or another, still connected to Small Nation?
Many of them are still employees, but they have the opportunity to do their own investing, their own, build their own empire within a really cool town with a lot of really gifted, cool people. And that's kind of what we wanted to be a beacon for, is I wanted to find people that felt unappreciated or underappreciated no matter where they're from, is they could come hang out in the sandbox and they could create success.
Right.
And they have gifts that maybe complement another business, because that's been another strategy to our success, is clustering certain business types in certain neighborhoods, in certain areas. Like when you've got a really great coffee shop, you want to cluster the hair salons around the great coffee shop, because every one of those solopreneurs that are doing hair, nails, makeup, pedicures, manicures, all the stuff, they buy coffee and their clients buy coffee. Right. And so that feeds and nurtures the coffee shop, and vice versa. It just creates a great atmosphere for when you're getting a service done, you're drinking something great. Yeah,
no, when we went through, like when we did our tour, we've went back like 2 or 3 times now total to Bell Fountain. And everything flows so good. Like you can just tell, like you could spend a day there and just go from place to place. And it's just like a natural, you leave 600, you stop over, you get some ice cream, you go down here, you can hit the gym, you can like go to the Mexican spot, like have a meeting next door. Everything has like a very good flow to it, it seems like.
Well, the ice cream, appreciate you sharing that. I mean, and I will tell you, it's some of those things have been intentional. And it's also been listening for when another entrepreneur has a problem in another market where we might be able to plug them in. So like the space directly next to 600 where Witt's Frozen Custard is, it had been vacant for many years. And when we heard that Witt's Frozen Custard had closed in the short north in Columbus, which that is one of the most bustling neighborhoods and successful revitalization stories probably in our state's history.
Right.
I wanted to find out why that owner closed. And like I had the courage to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I love Witt's Frozen Custard. I love your product. What happened? And he was pretty honest to say, parking is $20 a day. I can't find anyone to work for me for under $15 an hour. And my rent just doubled. You try to make selling $3 custards work with that business model.
Right.
And so the next question is what do you need to be successful? And so that's how you get introduced to the other franchisees, that opportunity for Witt's to then come look at Bell Fountain. And then they saw really busy pizzeria. Wow, ice cream would be a great complement next door. Let's partner up and do this.
Right.
And I think it's just having the ability to identify what may be an opportunity, but then having the courage to take the next steps to reach out. That's where some people, like, they've got all these good ideas, but they don't really have the courage or the willpower to say, I'm going to pick up the phone and just call that person. Or I'm going to shoot them a message or an email because I want to, know if is this on their radar.
What do you think that is? Like, to me, when I hear that, I think that it's people's fear of rejection, maybe.
Yeah.
But what do you think that is that keeps
I
people from doing that?
counted how many times I've heard the word no in life.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, it does hurt your ego. Like, I still hear the word no a lot in my life today. But one of my mentors said that no is just a delayed version of yes.
Yeah.
You just have to keep asking the question other ways.
You're one more closer.
So in sales, they call that, really identifying what your customers' hesitations are. And if you spend a lot of time on truly understanding your customers' hesitation and pain, you can actually get to a solution that's going to make their world and their life a lot better.
Yeah.
But that path usually leads to success for both parties.
Yeah, my background, like one of my first real jobs was as a sales rep for Verizon Wireless, and I was very successful at it, but they give you like phenomenal training there. And one of the trainings that you go through, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's something like they gave it, a title of what type of training it was. But the whole idea of it was, if you walk into Verizon and I'm trying to sell you a phone, and I'm trying to fit you with the best solution for you. And if you tell me no, to immediately just be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I know that this is such a good solution for you. So I apologize because I must have did a terrible job of explaining it and not understanding what your problem is and why you're saying no to this. So let's backtrack and tell me more about like, what issue are we trying to solve, blah, blah. And it was so powerful. Like when you actually get to the root of what the issue is and try to solve that problem, people open up completely. And then you're actually providing a solution.
I get frustrated because sometimes people look at sales as a dirty word. I think you can interchange the word sales with influence. You can change the word with, having passion about something. Like, I don't care what industry that you're in, is that you have to be able to sell an idea, sell a reason, sell yourself. And so I really think that's a skill that throughout your life, like finding ways to invest and understanding how to storytell and persuade and influence others on what you're passionate about is a really important life skill.
When people ask me like, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? I tell everybody, just not even be an entrepreneur, just a person in general. If you could have like one skill set that I think is from, this is from a 32-year-old standpoint, to me, the skill of selling. And because it does have the dirty word on, people think like, I have to be a salesman, but it's not. It's like influence, get people on board with the things that you're talking about. I think it's the best tool that somebody can have. And for you, like, obviously it has to be a strength of yours because that's how you build big teams. You're selling people on the idea. And when you say selling, it does sound like I'm swindling them into coming into my company, but it's not. It's like I'm pitching them the vision clear enough and like, asking them, why did this not work for you in Columbus? And then you're pitching them, you're selling them on Bell Fountain. And
people want to be around something that there is a vision, that like the vision is bigger than themselves.
Especially now more than ever, I feel like.
Yeah, sometimes it's not just about the money. It's about belonging to a team that's accomplishing, belonging to people that have good values, good morals, but then also like are willing to cover your back. Like I think it's probably I work with 17 employees today, and each of them are some of the finest people that I have ever had the pleasure to meet. And sometimes I wake up, I can't believe I'm surrounded with this group.
I was just about to say, do you pinch yourself sometimes and be like, how did we do this?
I don't know. Sometimes it happens really fast, but I think that they resonate with it every day, and our job is different. Meaning that you're not coming in and having a particular job description, just sitting down at a desk and doing the same thing over. I mean, we do have in our group entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, and there's kind of two different categories of types that we have with that. The entrepreneurs really are the folks that their risk tolerance is very high. They probably don't have a lot of hobbies. Their hobbies are their work, and they're very passionate about burning really, really hard, and they want to take the risk to have the upside potential that comes from that.
And both of these people are inside a small nation, you're saying?
They are. The entrepreneurs, that brain type is, they are really innovative and creative, and they have a lot of the entrepreneur mindset, but they really say, hey, my work-life balance is really important to me. Yep. I want to be able to go home at 5 o'clock at night or before and turn it off. And I'm totally okay with that, because we need both of those types of people in our organization. Because if someone doesn't process the credit card receipts in the accounting office, the bills don't get paid. And so you need certain tasks are very repetitive. And then I also need people that I know are fully skilled and capable to respond to situations that are happening every hour, every minute, day and night. And those people are coaches to other entrepreneurs that are dealing with crises. Could be the fire alarms going off, or could be their key employee just left them, or could be they just got diagnosed with a major health issue. Like all those kind of things. You wouldn't think that your landlord would be responding to those things, but I think that's what makes us different. It's like we want to be there for you as a person, but we also want to help you be successful and navigate through those bumps in life, because that happens in every business, and it's finding a team of people that can help you navigate those things.
And I think just from the short experience that we've had so far, because we haven't even got to start on the renovation of our building, we signed the lease a couple of weeks ago or something, and already I can say for sure, and I've leased buildings and rented from people and put businesses in there, or bought a building and put a business in there. I feel more supported from Small Nation than I ever have from anybody, for sure. So I think you've done a great job of, like, Kane's, he's reached out to me before work hours or after work hours already. I've had people that have emailed me at 6 in the morning because, I'm up at 4 sending emails, and I'm getting responses at 5:45 or 6 o'clock or whatever it is. And I think you've done a great job of bringing in both types of people, because I haven't got to meet everybody, but from the entrepreneur side, I can tell you there's definitely some people like that in Small Nation, for sure.
Appreciate that. Well, I think you think about your business and you're like, what do you want to do to differentiate yourself in the marketplace? And the things that I saw that were problematic is a lot of landlords would say, hey, here's the monthly rent, sign the year 2 lease, pay me the security deposit, here's the keys, good luck.
Yep.
What happens is so many people get stuck. They either aren't clear on how to navigate the building codes or regulations. If they want to do renovations,
with the community.
Yeah, how to integrate with the community, meeting the players and the organizations that are there. The other thing is the marketing of it. Like, if I want to hang a sign out in front of my building, what do I have to do to do that? Right. So we tried to take a lot of those lessons and incorporate it into a blueprint. So we call it the Small Biz Success Blueprint, where we'll walk you through all of those steps so that when you open up, and in fact, when you open up, we're probably not going to let you do the grand opening on day one. We're going to say, do your soft opening, get the bugs and things worked out of your system. A month or two later, we're going to do your grand opening, because you're going to get
when you worked out all the kinks.
Yep, 2 big marketing punches, and that's something that came through experience. And not everyone. I mean, we try to find people that resonate with being coached, and I think that's another important quality. No matter how much success that I have, or every speaking event or gig that I do, when I first walk off stage, I will say to someone that's close to me or around me to say, hey, can I get feedback on that? And
you couldn't have came at a better time today, Jason,
good.
I'm telling you.
But I'll be honest with you, I asked that question, and no matter how much success I've had, because I want to be better. And the feedback, when I initially was in this, I had a mentor early in my years that would do it to me regardless. He would say to me, hey, can I give you feedback? When I first heard that from him, I'll be honest with you.
What did I do wrong?
I worked so hard. I felt like I knocked out of my park. And he would say simple things like, hey, did you see when you were speaking, you were favoring the left side of the stage. You did not look and focus on the right enough. Were you watching your body language in terms of the way you were using your hands? Like, it was all things that I needed to be self-aware. I had blind spots with. And after a while, I was finding that I was getting better. And I then incorporated that process into what I do. And I find that I try to teach my other team members to do the same.
Well, let me ask you this, because when I said you couldn't have came at a better time, I was just having this conversation with Cam to where I was saying, he was just asking me, so lay out the issue that you're having and what do you think that you need help with navigating? And I was like, the best way that I can explain it to you is, one of our biggest things is, so one of our Easy Electronics, one of our key values is knowledge is power and to never stop learning. So like we try to make sure that it's always, we tell everybody all the time, get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations so that you can get feedback and that somebody can, walk up to you and be like, hey, you're doing a great job, but if you just did this a little bit better, blah, 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 and having that open dialogue. And I think it's worked really good with the team, but there's nobody that's giving me that feedback. And I told him, I was like, I've asked for every month for probably a year now, what can I do better? How can I lead you guys better? What do you need out of me? What am I doing wrong? Blah, blah. And it's, honestly, you're great. You're doing so good. Everything's great. And I'm like, I thank you so much. I'm glad that you guys feel that way, but it doesn't help me grow. And it's not going to help me get to the next level if that's all that I'm hearing. And it's so important. Like that's what we were talking about was I got to find people to keep around me that I can, even if they're not with me day to day in the business, that I can be like, hey, this is what's going on. These are the decisions I made. Give me some feedback. What could I have done better? Yeah.
It is sometimes hard and intimidating to, for even though you're opening and soliciting that, for people that work for you to do that. Mm-hmm. So I find finding peers and sometimes peers that could be in different industries or have different backgrounds for you, finding a situation where you can mastermind with them. And one of my favorite books was Vern Hardish's Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah,
and
I'm listening to it right now.
Well, to me, that was transformative because he introduced the idea of the mastermind. So instead of just having one mind around a problem, having multiple minds. And that concept was when I was attending different conferences and trade shows, I would meet people. And I would find people that had different skill sets, but I just liked to be around. And about 15 years ago, I formalized some friendships that we ended up incorporating into a mastermind. So those friendships...
People that you already knew? Sorry, people that you already knew?
No, I met at a conference and similar
Gotcha.
Backgrounds, similar goals to build a business and build a company.
Okay.
And we committed that there were two things we needed to do. Number one, we needed to grow our skills. And number two, we needed to build a support system amongst each other. And then number three, we needed this A word called accountability. Yeah. And so we said, okay, let's do a conference call every Sunday at 4:00 p.m. where we'll share three big things that happened to us that week that we were proud of or that we wanted to get some advice, and then one big area that we need help. Mm-hmm. We've been doing those calls for almost 15 years, and very rarely, you might as well be on your deathbed if you're going to miss it. Really? And that's a level of commitment to say I'm going to show up every Sunday at 4:00 on that call.
That's huge, though.
But what it has done is now I have people in my life that know me intimately because of the shares that I have that call. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, it was all the business tactical stuff, like, this new tax trick or this really cool web app that we're doing. Right. It is almost exclusively moved personal. And these guys... they just happen to be guys. They're in different industries, different states, but they're like brothers to me. Like I don't have a brother, but these guys are like brothers. Right. And we've helped each other through deaths of parents. We've helped each other through relationship issues. But they're people that know me intimately that can give me feedback, and I can hear that feedback and it makes me a better person. The same goes is formalizing other groups and training. I really resonated with a group called Strategic Coach. That group was founded by Dan Sullivan, and Dan's kind of claim to fame in helping entrepreneurs understand their time. So he developed something called the entrepreneurial time system, which has helped kind of look at my schedule to create focus days, so the days that I have very kind of rigid structure, schedule. Buffer days are days that I'm prepping and organizing stuff so that when I have my focus days, they're rock solid. Right. And then this concept, which has been very hard for me, called free days. And those are the days that you're really using that time to recharge, to rest, and nourish and invest in yourself. And I'll be honest with you, out of my peers that are in that program, I probably have the fewest free days because I love to work. Now, I'm getting coached and mentored on that because, coming in, 40 years old, I can't burn like I burned in my 20s. Like
you're 40 right now. Gotcha.
Yep. And there's very different steps every 5 years of your physical capabilities, of the lenses that you have and how you process things, and then also risk. Like I think differently than I did in my 20s, but I haven't lost all of my fire and my hustle, but I make much more calculated decisions because
It's not as much cause chaos and figure it out afterwards. And
it's different. And I'm really excited to be at this age because it is, I have just perspective and experience that I didn't have in my 20s, but it's different. You health becomes, I would never say that was a like high on my list before, but then you start to realize if you don't sleep, you in your 40s have immediate and lasting impacts that you can't recover from. So it's just your lenses start to change.
so that is like phenomenal information, because first I want to touch on the masterminds thing. That is exactly, and I don't even know why that. So when I started in real estate is actually where it got me started on. I had done some smaller things, like I started an app when I lived in Florida, and I did, all the odds and ends and the side hustles and whatever. But real estate was the first like serious entrepreneur journey that like got me on a good trajectory, and masterminds were crucial. Like I got involved with creative financing and all different things, and I learned most of the stuff from small web masterminds. So I don't know why I got away from that, and it's definitely a good avenue that I should explore now, because that's exactly where I could get the outside. Because you're right, it might be a little harder for somebody on the inside to give me the feedback that I either really, really need to hear and they're just, hesitant on telling it to me, or just somebody that's just, even if they weren't scared, that's just looking at it from the eagle's eye view, and that's not in it, because it's so hard to see, the holes when you're in the boat. Like if you were on the outside, it might be a little easier to see.
The other big perk is what the right mastermind group can do for your relationships and your family. So I'll just be honest, most entrepreneurs, we identify as weird. Like you've already shared a few things with me that you're up at 4 a.m. You probably don't go to bed till pretty late at night, and you're always thinking about the next thing, right? It takes a special person that will stay with you through that level of commitment and focus. And one of the greatest joys in my relationship is that my partner, in one of our mastermind groups, there's 8 members, and we agree to meet 3 times a year. One out of those 3 experiences where we travel and stay in the same place together is really focused around bringing all of our families, bringing all of the people that are important to us, so that the significant others can have their own experience of talking about us, because they can find better ways that they're struggling or hurting, that sometimes when we aren't the best to them or the best versions of ourselves, because we are focused so much on our goals, we are focused so much on, we kind of shield it a lot of times, and I may be projecting on you, but this is me. Like, I really think what I'm doing is to benefit my relationship and the future and that. But I sometimes like I need that feedback, and if my relationship can't share that, I could maybe hear that from my other mastermind members of what they're going through with their families. So that's like another cool iteration that in my early 20s I never realized. By sticking with this group and this level of commitment, probably the greatest joy is now spending time with their families and their significant others. And we're kind of growing together.
That would be so, I couldn't even imagine what that would probably do for my wife, to be able to talk to another woman that, has kids and has a husband that's trying to do all this extra stuff, that actually gets it, because when she talks to her friend whose husband goes to work 9 to 5, gets off, turns the clock off, and it's like, I'm home for the weekend. Or that, works the swing shift where they have a week off and then they work for 3 days and whatever. She can't relate. Like, she can't get across what it really is. And it's hard for me, like you said.
It weighs on you. And again, and I think that weighs on a lot of us. Like, we can't be our best version of ourselves until everyone in our life, it feels healthy and supported. And I think that's the other thing. It's like, I've watched too many cases with entrepreneurs that have burned a little too hard, and they've lost the things that are most important to them.
Yep.
And so I think having that accountability, that check-in, for me, this group, again, it wasn't really, it was kind of a natural thing that we kind of all met through various circumstances, but we formalized it and to say, you're going to put these dates in the calendar. We're going to agree that one person will host every year and help with the organization and planning of that. And then we'll take all the expenses and divide it equally amongst the group.
And that just kind of rotates. Like this year you're in charge, this next year you're in charge. That's so crucial because
And
especially with you, like your calendar's crazy. Like I know just from talking to your team and stuff, like
I have actually 2 full-time people that schedule now, and I would have never thought that I would have real people that their job is just scheduling me. But I mean,
is it hard for you to say that? Like, does it make you feel weird sometimes when you first start saying
the minute
that?
I lost control, I used to do all of that.
Yeah.
And part of it is you trust and you give certain things up. But I also know like what freedom that has given me, that I'm not the one like doing that.
And then you get the chance to do those things that you really do want to do, because there's so many things that are along those lines of like, we've talked about for I think 4 or 5 years, we're getting all the family together and we're doing Christmas in Gatlinburg, maybe even 6 years. We're all so busy that nobody just makes it happen. And as an entrepreneur, like when I'm dealing with other guys and I'm like, dude, we seriously need to get together and do this and do that. We both genuinely want those things to happen, but then everything else happens and it gets put on the back burner and on the back burner. So having something like that set on your calendar would be massive.
My team's goal is to keep me in my unique ability. And part of the process that I've taken is, what do I do that is far better in a unique area than anyone else? I can identify opportunity. I can identify opportunity in projects. So that's real estate, that's businesses, that's also in people. I can identify people that have really great gifts. So all the other tasks, if I can delegate and work with other people that are good at that, and they can keep me focused on my focus days using my unique ability, I can create the most success for the company. Now, what we as entrepreneurs sometimes are faulted, and I'm the biggest one, is you'll probably catch me on a Saturday, I'm moving trash around in our dumpsters because I see one dumpster's overflowing. And again, I'm not afraid to do any and all the jobs, but the more that they can keep me in my unique ability, the more success I can create for our overall company. And that's kind of like something that we're trying to teach and press downward, and getting everyone to self-reflect on what they're naturally really good at, and then secondly, what they like to do. Because truthfully, like my job is, if I can stay doing the things, you don't want me doing the accounting work in the office. Like I had to step in for a while when we had a departure in our accounting position. I am the world's worst. I will mess it all up, but I had to do it. People had to get paid, bills had to happen. But that was something for me to recognize that's not my unique ability. And so I want to find people, the guy we have in the position today, our staff accountant, he loves numbers and he is a whiz at spreadsheet. That is his joy. So I want to keep him focused on those kind of tasks.
So you've been doing this, Small Nation is about 15 years then? Is that the lifespan of Small Nation?
I mean, really, probably about, Small Nation's about 15 years, but prior to that, like the gigs in those various businesses that I have, but even prior to that, like, remember, I grew up in family business. So truthfully, and I say this with other people, I'm probably somewhere in my business career as like a 60-year-old, 20 years ahead of my time. Because when I was a kid, my parents and grandparents brought me to all of the meetings, and they put me in charge of what were adult kinds of tasks and things to do. So I equate myself as kind of a 60-year-old in business, because I've been doing this ever since I grew up.
Well, and the reason I was asking too is because when you're talking about like delegating those tasks and like getting to the things that you're very good at, I don't know why, and it might just be because, I haven't built the team yet or whatever it is. I know because I do it to the team. I'm like, that's not your strong suit. We need to have you over here where you're the most valuable, you're the most happy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm very good at doing that with other people. But for me, and I'm just now starting to get to the point, like I just talked to them because I do our accounting, I do our bookkeeping. We have a CPA, but I do like a lot of her job, and then she just double checks it. But I very much enjoy numbers, and that's how I like keep a strong grasp on what's really happening. But I just was telling Dakota, I'm like, I have to give bookkeeping and my accounting stuff and all of that to somebody else, because I know it's not what's gotten us to this point. It's not the best
use of
my time.
It's
hard. I wouldn't think it'd be that difficult.
It's trust. But there's a few things. So up until probably about 6 months ago, I opened up every piece of mail in our organization, and I took every receipt and deposit to the bank every day. That was really hard for me because there were the two controls in the business that I felt I had that really important pulse. But then with the way technology is innovating, when the person that handles this stuff now was talking to me, say, I really don't think this is a good use. This is probably taking an hour and a half of your time every day. But I understand that you use this to have a pulse in the business. What's the data that you need and the controls that you need so you're not doing it? And I guess someone like pushing back with that question is really what I needed to hear, because we get stuck in patterns, and I always have reasons for everything. Some of them are my own head trash of like what I tell myself that I need. But I think a lot of it goes down to when you build a company, it is like your child. Like you care about every aspect of it. Like when there's a negative 1-star review that comes in, I feel it personally. Like I want to know, how did this happen? Was it legit? Is there anything we can do to correct it?
Yeah, I want to show up at their door with flowers. Like, I'm sorry. What can we do?
Well, and then sometimes you get people where it's not legit, and you like want to come in there with hammer.
Exactly.
Like, I think you've got to like, for me, the process has been letting go of some things, establishing some new systems and processes, and is that your strong suit though? Like, are you the person that is making those systems and processes, or did you have to bring somebody else? Because that is my strong suit in the business. Is I'm the systems, processes, numbers guy, and then we have like our guys that are just really good on execution, the other stuff. But so I'm the intuitive in our organization. I feel things and I can anticipate problems before they happen, and then I'm also probably the fixer. So there isn't anything that. I have a process. I can make decisions pretty quickly. I can look at the facts, information. I'm a quick start. So in our company, I will galvanize decisions very quickly. Sometimes my follow through, I need people that when I galvanize a decision, will take those 8 or 9 steps and then go do them. Now, I run everything in my head with list. People are like, you don't carry a notebook. I see in my head, the way I process things is I see groups of lists. So we have a daily huddle call at 8:15 with our senior leaders where we talk about, and it takes less than 15 minutes, just things that are trending for the day, areas that we need help. I then move into a full 1-hour meeting with our real estate team at 9:30, and then at 10:30, a full hour meeting with our marketing team. In those things, I'm seeing lists, but everyone's kind of reporting out of what's trending, getting advice. We're looking over pieces. That's a rhythm. I have those daily meetings in my companies. After that, everyone's kind of going out and about and doing to report back then and update the next day. I need that structure, and I think there's some people probably below that like don't really like the amount of structure we have in the company. But for us and the rhythms of all the various tasks that we're doing, that has proven to help me in my leadership style. Yeah, I think that's kind of the direction that I'm wanting to go. And that's kind of what I'm in the process of trying to implement, because we are getting in more daily huddles and then weekly meetings and then broken off meetings of like, I'm in the process right now of kind of training our operations girl and letting her know like, all right, so these days you need to be touching base with these people about these things, and kind of, because I'm somebody that definitely, I like things to be in a rhythm and I like things to be like just set, and it makes it a lot easier on me, even if it does seem like there's not a whole lot of new information right now. Like it helps me to be in that rhythm. I'll tell you about having the huddle in the meetings. I also think it provides a little bit of accountability that you've got to think before you speak. Right. And if your huddle update is not that significant, I don't want to say that means some days are busier than others, but like I want you to think before you come to the meeting. I want you to be prepared. And I also want you to be comfortable tossing a ball. Like we have a lot of times where it's like, hey, this just blew up in my face today. I had all these things on deck. Can I toss that ball to you? And that's where I think that camaraderie of the team, it's like, I've got you covered, toss those balls. We have to do a lot of that in an entrepreneur organization. Like every day, I mean, I joke that I think Small Nation would be the best reality television show ever, because we're dealing with all of these HDTV, real estate renovations, improvements. We've got all the craziness of restaurants, which is the Food Network. Right. And then I'm not kidding you. About an hour ago, we had an incident at 1:30 in the morning last night at one of our retail stores on a Ring camera that we cannot explain. There was no one in the space, but it, all this weird movement and sounds and. I mean, I would just make the best. No, it would make the best TV ever. This every day. Let's make that happen. Yeah, maybe we'd put the link to that in the show notes. So right. And that's why I love the the excitement of it being different every day. And so I think if you're looking to work in an entrepreneur organization, that would be something that would draw you to it. But you do need some structures of what to expect just to keep everything moving forward.
Right. Yeah, and it doesn't feel like work too. Like when it sounds like when you're talking like there's all this stuff going on and blah, blah, blah. To me, I love that part of it. Like I love that my days look so different. I love that there's all these little micro fires that I get to try to figure out and problems that I get to solve and all that stuff. I love that aspect of it. And I know that there's
and I think a lot of people can. I would say to some folks, and I've had some exit interviews of people that didn't work out in our organization. And one of the ones that I took to heart that I said, maybe we need to make some changes, is they're like, I left because I felt like every day I had a loaded gun to my head. And I'm like, okay, I don't want, well, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, all the things that you just mentioned, I think a lot of people I work with are the same way. They love that, like, just keep throwing it on. Let's fix it. Let's untie this knot. Yeah. But to some people, that level of anxiety and pace can be overwhelming.
Yeah, we have a guy in our organization that the change and just, things popping up and blah, blah, blah. He likes things to move very smooth and very even keel. But he's in a position that his job should be very smooth and very even keel, and it's kind of repetitive and stuff. So it's definitely not for everybody. And if it was, there'd obviously be a lot more people doing it for sure. But when you just mentioned camaraderie, I want to circle back a little bit to the mastermind just for a couple things, because one, I'm curious how that's helped them. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if you're cool with disclosing it or not, but have those guys all seen like a good amount of success themselves within that mastermind? And have they all stuck? They're all entrepreneurs, correct?
Yeah, they are. One of them has, in terms of, financial success, there's all different levels.
Yeah.
Probably my company has had the smallest growth. So growth in terms of headcount or in terms of revenue, but that's not my primary goal. My primary goal has been impact and also building a balance sheet versus income statement. So it's like, what can we do to build more wealth and more success? Right. But like if you're in a high growth trajectory, several of our people in this mastermind group have had employee counts into the hundreds, one of them into the thousands. Wow. 3 out of the 8 have built national brands. So if you remember when Groupon was really popular, Anderson Schoenrock and his company Scan Digital was one of the largest successes on Groupon. And now today, he took his company from being out in Los Angeles, moved back to the Midwest to Fishers, Indiana, and now owns Memory Ventures. So Scan Digital is still a part of that, but like taking all of your VHS tapes and old film and digitizing it.
I just seen that on Facebook, and I am 100%.
He's probably targeting you.
I don't know if I can say this because I'm gifting it, but I'm 100% gifting that to somebody in my family.
Let me say his company, and
you just mail in the VHS, right? And they send you back the original plus digitize it.
100%. Yeah. So another company, the largest database for stock footage for videos is a company called Storyblocks. Joel founded that company when I first met him, Joel Holland, and sold that company out, had a several million, 10 times X growth of that company, and now invested in a company called Harvest Host. And if you are an RVer and enjoy wineries, craft beer bars, and golf courses, he has the largest member database in the world that's providing that. And I actually record a podcast on my podcast with Small Nation where he tells his story about doing that. And very successful company. It was on Good Morning America about 2 weeks ago, and he's helping so many small businesses. You can imagine if you are a winery, a brewery, or a golf course, and that directory is channeling traffic that are RVers to your businesses. Just huge impact. Right. Another individual took his publishing company, Adam Whitty, and partnered up with Forbes and launched Forbes Books. So, Forbes is one of the most premier publishing companies in the world, and by partnering up with them and licensing his publishing company with them, you can just think about the impact that has.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I could tell you about each one of these guys.
Well, and I'm assuming everybody didn't have that level of success when you guys started, right? So what a testament, though. That shows the power of what you guys are doing. Yeah. That gives me tremendous hope for some things that me and Cam have talked about that we have on the plate. and we're kind of trying to hold off. Our idea is to launch this at the end of the year, going into January of 24. But it's a similar concept of the basis behind it is getting entrepreneurs, I think, is like the main goal, because that whole idea of just being able to relate exactly to somebody compared to, like, you know, the wife that has an entrepreneur husband and then the wife that has a cop husband.
Right.
It's going to be hard for them to relate.
Yeah.
But our idea is we just see a huge gap in men being able to have a mental space to like unload and actually talk to other men that are dealing with the same things and stuff like that. And we want to be one of the beacons of that, because, you know, like our whole thing is like, you know, put in the hard work, 4 a.m. Like I'm training to do like some crazy races, and like that stuff's hard.
Sure.
And like the businesses are hard.
Yeah.
And that does wear on you mentally. And if you're not talking to somebody that's in a similar space, it's hard to really get good feedback and actually unload. Because if I'm talking about, you know, my struggles and what's difficult to me, and I'm talking to somebody that is on a totally different trajectory, I'm not going to fully open up, because I'm either going to make him feel bad about what he's doing and that his isn't as important as mine or whatever. So we want to try to be a beacon for like the people that are in a similar space to come and unload that and have a support system. But I think what we 100% should be doing is having those people, I mean, say that it's 20 or 50 guys, they should be breaking off in a mastermind after that, because it sounds
lonely.
like that's so powerful.
It is lonely. I think sometimes the people that I look up to that are leaders, that are you know, fighting the fight every day, you think they have it all figured out. Mm-hmm. Well, they're taking the flaming arrows all the time. And so those are the people I try to double down a lot, just to say, number one, I appreciate you. Number two, thank you for your courage. But I also know it's okay to hurt. It's okay to not have all the answers. And, you know, there have been times in my life where like I've hit, you know, something I cannot overcome. You know, of course, like you lose people in your life. I mean, probably the hardest day was when I lost, I've lost mentors before. Like the people that you know you can, in your phone, that when shit hits the fan, you knew there could be that one voice that would help you navigate that situation.
Right.
And there is a period as you get older, you kind of look in the mirror and you're like, you know, the big tall trees that I had that were once around me, they're not there anymore. But you now then have that role and responsibility to pay that forward too. So it's all part of the journey. But I love your vision or goal of what you seek to create, because
thank you.
It's you know, you're putting yourself out there. You have to find ways to have your supports and your harbors. What's filling you up? You know, that could be spiritual. That could be, you know, how you're focused on your health and wellness. That could be goals that you have, but you've got to fill that tank up. Yeah.
Who is that for you right now?
Well, certainly, you know, the mastermind group is a big piece of that. You know, I really
feel like the more that you know, experience success, I feel like the harder that has to be.
It is. I always just find that being a leader is, and you know, I learned this from one of my mentors. He said, you know, being a leader is a very lonely world. I think it is. I lean on a lot of other leaders and their past experience.
Because I'm just curious, like, have you outgrown, you know, the mentors? Like, are you having to keep pull in? Like, so for me, I just think about there's a guy that I was just telling Cam earlier today. He got me through a small bridge and brought things to the table that I was like, oh my God, I wasn't even seeing that. Plugged those holes. Thank you so much. And then I don't know that he's going to be able to help me in this next chapter. And I got to find new people. Do you feel?
Can I tell you, there's areas of my life that I feel I have great confidence in. Mm-hmm. Like I am really, really good at. But then there's other things as you get older. Like I never was involved a lot in athletics in high school and college. Mm-hmm. And then when I started wanting to work on my health, I needed to find a coach and someone that would mentor me with that. And so I met Lyle Inslee here in Lima. He did Anytime Fitness, and he had just moved to Bell Fountain. He was needing some help on the business and real estate side of things. Okay. So I said to him, like, I can help you with that. I'm really good at that. But I said, I know nothing about working out. He's like, I'll personal train with you. I'll introduce you, you know, to what we do here at Anytime. And I think that's that kind of shift that of surveying in your life of what those weaknesses, and maybe weakness isn't the best word, but just areas that you
can
want to
work
be
on.
better on.
Yeah.
I try to find and seek out those kinds of people, because the areas that I feel most comfortable and confident in, it's easy and natural to just stay focused on that, but then you don't work on all that other stuff to make you more of a complete whole person.
And some people, and I think that is so spot on to our message and what I feel like we're about at, building legacy and how we are with our businesses is there's people that are like, just double down on your strengths and you don't worry about your weaknesses. You just go all in on your strengths, which I think is fine. Like, I don't think that it's wrong necessarily, but for me, I'm definitely a person that if I'm, to me, I think I'm a good salesperson. I don't want to just be a good salesperson though, because I know that I stink at this other stuff. Like, I want to get better at my weaknesses and focus on those. And because to me, I think if I can get better at those, it's probably just going to amp up what I'm already good at. Like if I'm a good salesperson, imagine if I also had this piece with it, then I'm just going to be better at that. And I don't know what it is about people. To me, I think that honestly, everybody should be doing that. Like, my honest opinion is everybody should be doing, like, look, the hard stuff is what's going to make you better. And like, you got to look at the stuff that you're not good at to do hard things, because if you just focus on the stuff that you're really good at, it's probably not going to be that hard.
Love that. I've learned that you can't change other people. You can only change yourself.
Oh, for sure.
And so I try to lead by me incorporating some of these
And
things.
doing. Yeah.
Now, not to say that I have some bad habits, and I will tell you, I do sometimes see those bad habits play out on my team members.
Yeah.
But I also see the good things too.
Is it hard to reprimand those when you're like,
Well, it actually makes me more self-aware. Like,
Right.
If I'm
seeing it.
like, if I bark, they call it barking in a meeting. Like, I've noticed that behavior sometimes with certain situations have yielded itself in stressful situations. So it's like, okay, I need to correct that behavior. Like, that's not something I want to see us emulate ever. So it is kind of one of those things that you grow through watching how others respond when you're not there, and that's kind of the testament I appreciate hearing. Like, we have goals. Like, I used to every tenant do every lease. I used to handle every property management situation, every accounting situation. And so you're trying to then empower team members to act in the ways that you would hope that they act and treat. Right. And that's probably, again, the great testament of, like, if those things are working, you're building a company, an organization that has great potential.
Yeah. Where do you think that you guys, like, do you have an idea of where you want to take Small Nation? I mean,
yeah. So it is definitely beyond Bell Fountain. Bell Fountain is kind of our living, learning lab to test out cool ideas like shared office spaces and co-working and pop-up retail, becoming a destination for antiques and all things funky, fun, and cool. But now that we have this, we are inviting other communities, mayors, economic development professionals,
I've seen that.
chambers.
You guys have had some awesome meetings.
We get paid for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's kind of cool is, like, people
Yeah,
pay
'cause you
us.
guys are consultants now, right? I believe is the word that, yeah.
I even struggle with that because, like, I always hated in the world there were all these consultants that would, like, tell you how to run the business. And so I wanted to make sure that what we did was very authentic and also was backed with real life experience. So instead of just selling a report, we're going to invite you in to meet the entrepreneur, see the business, actually understand, like, what went into accomplishing making it cool and making it profitable. And so I believe that a lot of these ideas can be replicated to other towns around Ohio, around the country. And so we building this whole model around small town success. What does it mean related to the people, the organizations, the leadership, the access to capital, all the kind of things that you could take what is working in downtown Bell Fountain and take it to anywhere else.
Right.
And so, through our podcast with the Small Nation podcast, through us kind of storytelling with our visits and our tours and just all the cool things that all the partner businesses are doing, like that word's getting out. And that's kind of fun because I'm in the process of writing a book.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm in a process of writing a book. I'm in a process of being able to take a lot of these lessons and knowledge and speak to a larger platform about it.
And really, really probably create some awesome change.
that's what the goal is.
Yeah. Is that so? Two things.
Yeah.
One, because I just love when there's people that, their driver's not the money, and I can already tell just talking to you for the short time, like the change is. It sounds like what's most important to you, which is so cool because that's literally my entire motivation. And money as a vehicle, success as a vehicle, business as a vehicle to try to create real change.
Money and energy are the same thing. So, I want to see people that put their time, their talent, their energy into something. I want them to have that currency back to do more good.
Right.
So, and I'm not bashful about we work really hard to make as many of our tenants and our partner businesses. I want them to make as much money they possibly can because then they're going to activate that capital to do more good for their community, for their church, for their employees.
Yep.
And it is that transformation. Like, how can we take something like the way people talked about Bell Fountain 15 years ago and apply a little bit of creativity, some grit, some hustle, and get that engine going again. I think that can be replicated all across the country. And I think that then inspires the next generation of entrepreneurs to people like you to take those risks and to plant those seeds to keep making our towns, our region, our state, our country better.
Absolutely. Well, I love that you referenced that though by saying I didn't want to just be another person selling as a consultant. Because I think that especially now, the internet is just so full of, and not just like in a business sense, like exactly what we're doing.
Right.
You went out and you're like, I don't want to just give you a balance sheet and be like, I can help you do this. It's like, no, come see what we did. And we have this stack of hard work and proof of like, we've been through it. We've done it. We've went through the struggles. We've put in the sweat, blood, and tears. And this is how we did it. And now we want to reach back and just help you do that in a smarter way or whatever it is. And that's exactly like what we're trying to do is it's like we just did Dakota, who is one of my partners in Easy. We went this morning and did this workout at the gym. And he's like, dude, that's like one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I was like, yeah, I don't love doing this stuff, but I want to be able to have that undeniable stack of proof of like, I did it. And now I can go talk to somebody about it because I've seen the effects that it had on my life. Like I've been on the other side of it. I've put in the work. I see what the work does. And now let me go talk to people about it because I did it. And I feel like it's a lost thing for whatever reason now that people just get out and they talk about stuff that they either haven't done or that they don't even really know. And so many people just fall for that stuff. And it's like some guy who has nothing together that's just screaming at your phone on Facebook that's like, I can help change your life. Pay me X amount of dollars, blah, blah, blah. And there's so many, especially in your situation, you could easily do that. Like you could easily do a quick money grab and then poof. But instead you're like, no. Let me be the opposite of what everybody else is doing. And that's so cool because that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Thanks, Devin.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I'm happy to hear that Small Nation is going to spread out.
Yep.
I had mentioned to you, I've got a couple buildings here in Lima. I'm curious what you think is the piece that Lima's missing. And I'm not saying that Lima's like doing bad or whatever.
Yeah.
But every time that I go to Walpock, Bell Fountain, Findlay, all these places, I'm like, Lima should have this. Like, why is Lima not have what these towns have? I'm curious what you think from
Lima,
that standpoint.
size-wise, obviously is, that 40, 50, 60,000 people. So it's larger than a lot of the communities that you mentioned, which in some respects can make it harder in the beginning. But then if you do get that momentum and that good things happening with a larger population community, it's a bigger market.
Right.
So probably more opportunity. The thing that we need in economic cycles is there's that bell curve. So you need, communities are never going to stay the same. There's going to be this rise. There's going to be a drop off. I truthfully think what has happened about a year ago, maybe about a year and a half ago, is Lima hit a point where things probably couldn't get any worse, right? A lot of vacancy, buildings coming down,
Very
of course when Macy's
dilapidated.
closed, there's just a lot of there was some heavy news for the community. But like being around, I arrived at your studio a little early today, walking around, And I'm seeing some really exciting investment activities
Absolutely.
in
There's
new
big things
restaurants.
happening.
What's happening with the Central District, seeing a new pavilion, bringing in, and there's all these great cultural assets. And when you've got the Lima Civic Center, and you've got new ownership with the Ohio Theater, and you've got, you've got a major interstate that is running right through the town. I think it's positioned for investment. And I think the biggest thing that we have to do is get certain groups of investors off the sidelines to deploy capital. And I'll tell you, there's some headwinds with higher interest rates right now. But I think if you can see and look at some of the leaders that have done that, how they're doing, I mean, there's a reason why businesses like Beer Barrel expanding all around the state.
We had John Hafey on. Yeah.
John's obviously
phenomenal guy.
Done it and accomplished it, and he also is always thinking for ways to give back to the community.
Right.
I think there's a lot of things to emulate with that.
Yeah.
And now it's like figuring out, okay, if we've got some of these great places to eat, what are the shops we want to have around it? Where do we want to put places to live? Like I just saw there's lots of new residential options now in downtown. It didn't used to ever be that case 20 years ago. You've got people that are making those investments to do that. So I'm bullish. I think if I was Lima, I would try to identify what everyone else is doing and do something different. And what I mean by that is like we need to plant our flag here with something that is unique. And just with the cultural and entertainment options that are here, I happen to believe, I think Lima has been and has history of being a center for the arts. I would love to see that continue to be expanded and grown here
maybe
too.
Maybe the arts be the focus.
Truthfully, I would love more of it in Bell Fountain. We've gotten some really great traction with our local theater and pieces of that. But I think there's a big opportunity here to double down on that.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Fantastic advice.
Yeah.
And so we have this building that we're in now. I actually bought a building on Main Street a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And my idea was like, I have no idea what I want to do with this building at all. But I'm just like, I feel like there's like a rumbling in downtown Lima. And it's just like, it's waiting to erupt. Like, I just feel like it's probably me being young and naive, maybe, because when I've talked to other people that have been in downtown for a long time, they're like, it always goes through this like big resurgence of like, it's like right on the cusp of making something happen, and then it dies off for 5-10 years, and then it comes back, and it just never like busts through that bubble or whatever. But
so I'll give you a quick strategy.
Yeah.
Take a picture of the building in its current state today, of the storefront. Go to Facebook, ask one question. What do you want to see here? As those comments come in, print them all off, highlight what is most common, and then let's work with the local sign company. We did this. I'm sharing with a bakery example. We asked the community for this empty building what they wanted to see here, and one of the most popular things that came up is they wanted a bakery and wanted an ice cream shop. So once we got that feedback, we took and worked with the local sign company to create a beautiful rendering of baked goods that looked, it was just like a photo that we then put the film on the store and just said, put your bakery here, ! Contact, phone number, email address. Within about a month, we had 2 or 3 leads just because we were intentional and specific of listening to what the community wanted and then visually help them see what the bakery could look like in that spot. Today, that business is called City Sweets and Creamery. In Bell Fountain, they open up at 5:30 in the morning, and on Friday and Saturday nights, they close at 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
Just because we listened, asked the question, then designed the creative look, fun graphics that look just like a bakery when you drove by, with a call to action on how to reach out to us so that person could help their vision and their idea and their dream open up in town.
That's perfect. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. Let me ask you this. So where I'm at with it is I actually made the Facebook post.
Great. Step 1.
But the idea of putting it on the window is brilliant.
And we use the permeable vinyl.
Yeah, no,
so
exactly
you can actually see the graphic on the outside, but the inside you can still see out.
Yeah.
And it shows really well too.
We have it at Zenham, and it made like our front door look like brick.
That's right.
And blah, blah, blah. But from the inside, you can completely see through it. Actually, Easy's windows are in that same type of thing. But what I'm curious of is because my building, the one on Main Street is in a very similar condition to like the one that you're talking about when you're like, they're going for $1 because they're just dilapidated and all that stuff. The investor piece. So like I've done a ton of like buy, renovate, refinance. I'm on like a residential side. I'm curious though on a commercial side what that looks like, because I think I could put together the capital to do the renovation, but it makes me know on a residential side, I've done that multiple times, and I've refinanced out my investor and I just go get a 30-year fixed, and it's nice, smooth, and easy. On a commercial side though, from at least a little bit that I know, because I haven't actually had to try it, it's a little more difficult.
Well, it can be, because you typically have more knots to untie and problems to solve. So if you can identify what business makes the most sense there, so what industry, or what, if you're going for retail, you're going for salon, you're going for a gym, you're going for a restaurant, I would try to at least say, I think it needs to go to one of those categories, because that's going to dictate by building code, by commercial building code, what level of occupancy and building regulations you're going to have to work through. Right. And a lot of times retail is one of the least expensive to renovate, where if you're moving to having more than 50 people to assembly, that can mean sprinkler system, that can mean fire alarm. So I try to get people to start to kind of identify what makes the most sense there. And then from the prospecting standpoint, we need to find either a tenant or a business partner that wants to put the operating business into that property. You may decide if they're a tenant, then you may find outside private money or passive investors that are just looking for a consistent rate of return on lending you capital to do that renovation. Or you may get lucky and say, I want an operating business in a property with you, and I want to partner up with you where you can not only make potential money as the rent, but there may be money you could make as my private money lender, or there may be money that could be made as an equity partner with me in this business. Right. And I think what's tough about all of these scenarios, what's different from residential, it's not just that their primary goal is to living at the property. That makes it a lot more simpler. Right. But I would say, like, we have and provide coaching and support to other investors where we can show them different arrangements where we've just been the landlord. Sometimes we've been the landlord and private money lender because a traditional bank doesn't want to take the risk on that. Right. Or in many cases, we're a landlord, a private money lender, and an equity partner. And in those arrangements, those entrepreneurs are going to get the most access to me and my team to help them be successful long term. And in the beginning, you may say, oh, I really don't want to give equity up in my company. And I know you can watch Shark Tank and see the pros and the cons of how that is. But I think the sales job is for the investor or the investment group is like, what are you bringing to the table to help that entrepreneur stay on their unique ability, but also scale and grow and create more success together long term? And I'm really proud of some of the examples that we have that have been a really good fit for the entrepreneur. Like another data point, you're right, it's not about money, but I do say money and energy are the same things. Like one of my greatest points of pride is how many other people I've made successful around me.
Yeah, because actually earlier when you were talking about Adam, I know he's done phenomenal things, and like I feel like I've seen him, branch out, and he's getting his hands in other things and all that stuff. So, yeah, and that's what I want. Like I want to get to the point that I'm like, man, like they're killing it. Like they're still on the team, or even if they're not on the team anymore. Like I've told Cam before, like because I asked him, what's your dream? Like, what is it that you dream of? And I'm like, I would love to, have access to you for 5-6 years and you soak up everything you can from me. And then if you want to go shoot movies in Hollywood, dude, I'd be the first person cheering you on. So love that. Yeah. Well, we're running out of time here a little bit, and I don't want to hold you too long. So as I'd mentioned, I love quotes, and we had a revelation a little bit like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think, to where I was like, I said something about like seeing this quote on the internet, and I was like, now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like the internet's like kind of shaped me as a person. Like I see these quotes on the internet, I found like all my stuff about real estate on the internet, and I'm like, I'm taking a lot of this stuff to heart. But I'm curious if you have just a favorite quote in general, or if there's just something that you've came across recently that just like is very pertinent to like right now.
Well, as I've researched history, I learned that in our town in the 40s and 50s, we had a Methodist minister, and his name was Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. And
that's a name.
Yeah,
he sounds
it is
important.
Well, he became more important after he moved from Bell Fountain to New York City, and Dr. Peel became the movement behind a book called The Power of Positivity. And this book, literally, if you heard the term The Secret, like aligning your thoughts and that's what becomes, he was the grandfather for it. And he really kind of coined the term in many of his quotes is as he would hear people's hardships and the things they would go through in life. And I'm going to paraphrase this, but really is like that mistakes are accelerated learning. So like the earlier are in life, what you deem or maybe judge as a mistake, it really is, what is giving you the courage and the knowledge and the know-how to someday be on a podcast speaking to a younger version of yourself and saying you're on the path to do it. It's not going to be an easy path, but when you hit those bumps in the road, don't get down on them too much. Put them in your pocket, and they're part of your arsenal for the future. So, just want to leave that in your guest today. But I'm excited for what you're doing. I'm excited for what's happening here in downtown Lima, and looking forward to
bring some to you.
Yeah, let's create some success together.
Yeah, I'm so excited to do it. And Bell Fountain already has been so welcoming. I can't imagine once we get into First Fridays and all the other stuff that you guys have going on, and the pet wash. We're gonna get some clean dogs going over there.
I have had a tough time keeping that under wraps because I know I've got a 11-year-old Sheltie, and it's a big deal like to wash the house with all the hair and stuff. So like. Super excited about that.
That was 100% business that came out of necessity.
Love it.
We were cleaning a 90-pound Bernedoodle at home, and we were like, yeah, this is done.
Yep.
All right, well, my last question for you. Building legacy.
Yeah.
Very open for interpretation. We know what it means to us here, but I'm curious what that means to you, that phrase building legacy, and kind of what you want that legacy to be for yourself.
Building legacy is what and how you use your time, your talent, and your treasure. It's thinking through what you get up and do every day that is investing in others and is investing in the future. And the future comes fast. So it's thinking through where you want to plant those seeds to come to harvest. And I think that legacy is what those stories will be of how you've touched other people's lives and the kinds of businesses and in ways that you've impacted your community and your region and your country. Yeah.
Well, I think from only knowing you a short time, obviously as these businesses open up and Bell Fountain, stuff like that, I'm sure, I hope that I'll get to know you even better.
Yeah.
But from the outside looking in, as somebody that's only got a little taste of what you guys got going on, I think you guys are building an amazing legacy for yourself.
Thank you.
You specifically, there's not a lot of people that I know that reach a level of success to where their name is decently well known, where it's usually not hard to find somebody to say something bad about them.
Yeah.
I haven't had anybody saying anything bad about you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're not asking far enough yet.
Well, no, I honestly haven't.
That's kind.
And I, how you said earlier, you're like, I think one of my greatest strengths is being able to, feel people out. And I feel like there's people that I'm sure I'll come across that will be like, no, well, but I usually got a pretty good dial on who's churching something up and
appreciate that. I'll just share one
truth.
comment that, when you do things that are bold, you'll attract a lot of other people that appreciate bold things. But don't be afraid that when you do things that are bold and people that don't know you, is that it's just a natural quality to say that you have to, there's some people that want to tear you down. And that's okay too. Yeah. But like, I appreciate you saying that. And, you try. I think when you can put a face to people, and I think that's with all leaders, like anyone that's in a position that they have to make decisions, it's easy to only look at, what your perception is of why they should be making a different decision. Get to know them. Get to know who they are as a real person. And then you'll have your own experience of walking in their journey too.
100%. And I don't use the phrase hater a lot, but another one from the internet that I've seen was I've never met a hater doing better than myself.
Right. It's true. Very true.
Thank you again. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And if you guys liked any of that, and if you guys got some value out of that, please follow us on everything. We're on Instagram, Facebook. I mean, anywhere that there's information, we're going to try to be there. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up for you guys. We still got the Ultra documentary that we're working on. And as always, get out there and make your last name mean something.